Well, did not think this is something I have to do at 100k miles. No intro needed, I'm just gonna get straight to it. As you can see, the battery connector is brown. It's rusted and there's a lot of that battery corrosion built up. All that corrosion built up prevented the metal to metal contact, and you could see it's forming in that little space right there. And I was able to clean it with no problem. However, a few days later, all of that corrosion came back. So it's time that we replace this positive connector. This truck is a 2006, it's a 14-year-old vehicle, and it's on its first battery connector. I don't even know if there's a service interval for this, but if there is, then 14 years is a pretty long time, and that's pretty good for its first battery connector. I've got the replacement battery connector, and this is for a Toyota or Lexus, and that's the part number. Now, this did not come directly from Toyota. I bought it from Amazon, and the seller was edsparts.com. And it doesn't have any Toyota genuine tags on it, so not too sure if it's OEM, but it is identical to what is currently right there, so it should work just as well. I was hesitant on doing this because I thought there would be cutting involved, but Toyota made it very easy to change these battery connectors. All you have to do is just unbolt this nut, pull everything out, and then just replace the connector. It's that simple. For the tools, I'm only going to be using two things, which are a 10mm socket and a 12mm socket. Now, for other stuff necessary, I'm going to be using water, baking soda, and grease for the battery terminals. Now, you could also add either sandpaper or filing tools so that you could sand down the battery and get a better connection. But I'm not going to be doing that because this battery is still pretty new and the battery connector will be new as well. So that alone will have a better connection. And so without further ado, let's get to it. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is undo this nut with the 12mm socket. Pull the nut out and then pull these hoop connectors off. There we go. These hoop connectors are tucked away and away from the battery so that we don't cause a spark. Next, I'm going to remove the positive battery connector, and this is where the 10mm socket comes in. Okay, that's off, and look at that. That is a lot of battery corrosion built up. And I'm gonna remove the negative battery connector because I'm gonna grease this side along with the positive side. All right, tucked that away. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove these washers. Now that doesn't look too bad, but I'm still going to go ahead and clean it with baking soda and water. I got the bowl with baking soda inside of it, and I got some water. Pour that in there. Give it a little mix, and then pour it on top. So you could see that's not a lot, but it's still sizzling. You can see there's a little bit of discoloration. It's a little bit of green and blue, but nowhere else. But I'm going to give it a bit and then clean it up. All right, cleaned it up, and all you really need is a paper towel, nothing else. And look at that, looks like new. Now, take the washers, put them back on. Now, we apply the grease. Make sure it's even. Now that both sides are coated with grease, we can put the connectors back onto the battery. All right, the negative connector is in. Now we have two different hoop connectors, one with a plus and one without. The one with the plus goes on first, and then the smaller one goes on top of it. Then we take the new nut, bolt it on. Now I take the 10mm socket and tighten both connectors. Lastly, tighten this nut. Okay, put the red cover back on, and that's it. We are all done. And that's it. It's a very easy fix, should only take a few minutes, except it took me a lot longer since I made a video out of it. But pulling the cover off, that looks a lot nicer than the old one that had that nasty brown color to it and it was all rusted and corroded. And this should last up to 14 years if it's Toyota OEM. If not, then at least I won't be having any issues for a while. And before closing the hood, I would highly recommend doing some cleanup. It looked a lot worse than this. I cleaned it up a bit, but I did a horrible job. But some cleanup is recommended so that it looks nicer. Now, just to make sure that everything is good, I'm going to see if we have power, and if we do, I'm going to try and start up the engine. Okay, as you can see, we've got power, and taking a look at the voltmeter, it shows that we have 12 volts. So that means we should be able to start the engine. Look at that. And it's good to go. All right. Since everything is good, aside from that mess on the side of the battery, I'm gonna go ahead and cover up the battery connector and close the hood. So that is it for this video. Like I said, it was a very easy fix and it should only take a few minutes. If you're subscribed, thanks. If you're not, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Take care, everyone. I will catch you on the flip side.